What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another week of NFL picks for your 2020 NFL season. These are my week number 10 picks. Going game by game, giving you my picks straight up and versus the spread. Before I give you my preview and prediction for every game this week in the NFL, make sure you do Gronk Spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos and weekly NFL picks. Also, comment your questions, your opinion, and your picks in the comment section below, whether you're watching this on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or even Sunday morning. Let me know your picks in the comment section below. Also, guys, key to the support of this channel is to make sure once you do subscribe, which I know a lot of you watch my videos and are not subscribed, so if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. But when you do subscribe, I don't mind if you Gronk Spike the notification bell as well to make sure you know when I go live, to make sure you know when the latest upload has arrived from this channel, The Bottom Line View. Before I forget, I do want to show you how I've been doing this season in 2020 in terms of my picks, both straight up and versus the spread. I can say I had another incredible week straight up. But when it came to my best bets and my straight up spread picks, I mean, not so good. Not so good, let's just say. I probably had my worst week from a spread perspective, but the funny thing is I only got 3 games wrong in terms of my straight up picks. That means that Vegas was pretty on last week. And when you're trying to beat Vegas every week, it's not always going to work out for you, but we're going to try to get past them this week. We're going to try to get back on track versus the spread. But straight up, man, I've been doing pretty awesome. So let's take a look at my record this season. So straight up, guys, I am 96-37 on this show throughout the course of the season. That's pretty good in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's pretty good in my opinion. The spread picks, all right, 73-58, pretty good. I had a rough week last week. My last week was 5-9 versus the spread, even though I went 11-3 straight up. So that just goes to show you, like, sometimes you're not right. But what I should have done last week was I should have just picked every team. You know, maybe there was a lot of close games that weren't necessarily expected to be close. Like, for example, the Steelers game, the Chiefs game. There were a few of those games where I made the wrong spread pick because I just decided to go with the team that I picked a lot of times, like the Chiefs or like the Steelers, and they were heavy favorites who couldn't cover. So, and the Patriots as well, who were heavy favorites but couldn't cover. So those were 3 examples of where I should have taken the points. My best bets, rough week last week. 1-4. Again, I've had like 2 really bad weeks. I've had a couple really good weeks. For my best bets, I've mostly been staying around 3-2, hitting at 60%. But last week was really bad. So we're looking to get back on track. Of course, my best bets are on Patreon, where I don't necessarily tell you who I'm betting on or advise you who to bet on, but I just give you kind of my opinion on the games that I think would be worthy of taking a look at to place your money on. So if you're interested in that, you can subscribe to the Patreon, where you can also support me and the channel starting at $3 a month. Become a patron of the Bottom Line View, and you get that show that's exclusively on the Patreon, the best bets. All right, so let's start off with the Thursday night football game, which I would say is one of the best Thursday night football games we are going to see all season, and that is the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. I do want to give a shout out for the first time ever in this show's history that I did not make these graphics this week. Dercant and Ultra stepped up to the plate. I had a previous engagement before this, so I couldn't do it. So I got Ultra Durkant. They stepped up and they did it. So, they've been doing some stuff on Instagram. They're trying to learn. They're trying to be, helpful around the community. So I appreciate all you guys that are helpful, whether that be in the Discord, on the Patreon, in the chat, whatever it is. Thank you. And this is just an example of it. So Thursday night football, the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. This game is a pick'em. And this game, I believe, started out as the Tennessee Titans being favored by like a point or two. I could be wrong there, but that's the first time I believe I saw it, where I was saying on Monday, maybe I'll take the Colts with the 2.5. That was another show that's exclusive to Patreon, where I take a look early at the lines ahead for the week. That's also on Patreon. But yeah, I'm still thinking I'm going to lean with the Colts here, and there's some reasoning to this. Adoree Jackson, I believe, was taken off injured reserve for the Titans, but he will not play in this game. We saw Desmond King for the first time as a Tennessee Titan. He already has a touchdown under his belt. Not too shabby. But I look at the matchup, and I really, really like what I've seen from the Indianapolis Colts defense. I think there's going to be a lot of people that pick the Titans in this game because they do have the better offense. I would say they have the better quarterback. They had a good win last week versus a decent opponent in the Bears, and the Colts, they lost to the Ravens in kind of embarrassing fashion. Not necessarily because of the score, but more like how they lost. But I think how they lost had a lot to do with some fluky plays, like, a fumble return, a weird interception that shouldn't have been an interception. They were actually very competitive, especially on the defensive side of the football for the Colts versus the Baltimore Ravens. They were very, very good on that side of the ball. And I think, that this game, the Colts are facing an offense that loves to run the football with Derrick Henry, but hasn't been as good as last year. And the Ryan Tannehill, I'm skeptical with how the Titans offense is going to attack the Colts. Are they going to come out and try to establish that run game? Are they going to come out and try to run the ball? Because I don't think that's going to be a way to approach this game if you're the Titans to be able to win it. I think for the Titans to win this game, they need to come out and they need to pass the ball because that's how you can beat the Colts. The teams that have been able to move the ball on the Colts have spread them out and have had competent passers behind center who can pick apart the zone coverages of what the Colts do. But when you run the ball, you get in long third down situations, and then you ask your offensive line to block this defensive line that's one of the best and overpowering in football. That's when you can put yourself in bad positions, and that's where I think the Colts gain an edge on defense because their defensive line is very, very good. Their front seven is very, very good. Linebackers are phenomenal. They're speedy. They can fly sideline to sideline. Okereke being very underrated. They also have Darius Leonard, of course, who's playing at an all-pro level again. But he's really essential to what they do from a health standpoint. He's been a little bit injured here and there. And then when you look at the other side of the ball with the Colts and the Titans just don't have a pass rush. And the number one thing I'll say about Phillip Rivers, okay, Phillip Rivers isn't who he used to be. He's not a top 10 quarterback no longer. But when he does get time, he's still good. He's still competent. He can still make the throws. He can place the football wherever he wants on the field. And maybe the Titans come out with a creative rush blitzing plan that throws Rivers into bad passes and possible turnovers. But the more likely scenario is that the Titans cannot create pressure versus a very good offensive line. And Phillip Rivers, no matter who his weapons are, will be able to put the ball where he wants to put it. And I think the Colts match up pretty well with the Tennessee Titans. So even though this is a Thursday game, a short week. You're having to travel. You're not the home team, typically the home team on Thursday night because of the short schedule and the short turnaround typically is better. I think the coaching staffs on both teams are pretty even. So I'm going to go with the Colts here. I just initially had that feeling when I looked at the game first off. I was just like, it feels like a Colts bounce back spot. And then when you talk about all the matchups across the board on both sides, it feels like the Colts do have the edge in the fact that they can stop Derrick Henry from winning this game. Ryan Tannehill has been a little bit shakier than usual the last couple of weeks. And the offense for the Colts should be able to pass the ball fairly well, especially with Adoree Jackson missing another game. So I am going to go with the Colts here. Let me know who you're taking in this Thursday night game, but I like the Colts to win this one. I don't think I'll be betting on the game because it's just very up in the air in terms of who can win it. I just don't really have a great feel for which team's going to win. So those are the games I don't usually bet on. The next game is the Houston Texans at the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. We have Deshaun Watson facing Baker Mayfield. The Browns -3 in this game, minus a field goal, which does seem a little odd. I think that has to do with the advantage that the Texans have at quarterback. But when you've watched these two teams this year, the Cleveland Browns have been far superior, the better team. I would say the more consistent offense, and really their defense is also better. So, and the coaching, I mean, what they've been doing over there in Cleveland with Stefanski has been better from what I've seen from the Cornell Texans or the Bill O'Brien Texans. So either way, I feel the Cleveland Browns have an advantage on both sides of the ball. Now, I think the Texans with Deshaun Watson will not be blown out in this game. I don't see the Browns as a playoff team right now. I think they're on the outside looking in, although their record would suggest that they'll make it. But I'm just not confident enough in a non-Odell Beckham Jr. receiving core and a Baker Mayfield-led passing game. It's just not an electric passing game that gets me excited, and the defense isn't good enough where they can just grind out wins based on their run attack and their run attack only. So that's why the Browns are out of the playoffs. But in terms of winning this game, they're coming off of a bye. The Texans just played a rivalry game versus the Jacksonville Jags. They're on the road. Cleveland's at home. They might get Nick Chubb back for this game, which would be absolutely huge. And the key matchup to watch is the Cleveland Browns running game versus the Texans run defense. That has been one of, if not the worst run defense in all of football, letting Robinson go absolutely off last week for Jacksonville and keep that game competitive and keep that game close despite having a first ever late round rookie quarterback start for Jacksonville. So the Texans to me just aren't very good. We need to get over that they have Deshaun Watson because the rest of their team is just not there. Brandon Cooks is solid. He's even good. And Will Fuller's great. But other than the duo of receivers, Deshaun Watson, that's it. David Johnson's probably not playing in this game, so their rushing attack takes a hit. The offensive line is okay. The defense is dreadful. And the Cleveland Browns have had a week of rest, a week of players that they had a long injury report to get back on the field, to get rested, to get ready for this one. And it's a big game for the Browns because they need to continue to win these games. And being that the game is in Cleveland, that gives me that much more confidence. So even though the Texans do have the better quarterback, the Browns are simply the better team, and they can attack the areas where the Texans are just not that good. The run game. So I'll take the Browns to win, and I'll take the Browns to cover. The next game is the Jacksonville Jags at the Green Bay Packers. This is a 13.5 point spread. The Packers covered last week versus San Francisco and bullied the Nick Mullins San Francisco 49ers. Rodgers was able to somewhat get his revenge from the 2 losses last year, but it's not really the same 49ers team. We know that. But the Packers, Davante Adams, phenomenal. Some would say the best receiver in the sport. Again, he's certainly the best route runner. As for the best receiver, I'm not sure I'm willing to go there. I think there's a couple guys better, but he's still in that top tier. The defense is basically Alexander, Clark, and that's really what they have right now. I mean, Zadarius Smith has played average this year, in my opinion. Preston Smith has sometimes been invisible. They really don't have a linebacker position, and their safeties have been all right. Like, this Packers defense has pretty much been overrated all year long. They've only played a couple good offenses all year that have been able to expose them. I think they're a decent unit, but nothing special. They certainly can be had more often than not. So for Jacksonville, this isn't a bad matchup for their rookie quarterback getting the second start. Jacksonville does have more talent on offense than a lot of people would like you to believe. DJ Chark had a big game last week after weeks of not doing much with the quarterback change. And Robinson has been one of the best undrafted rookies we've seen in quite a long time. Of course, they have other receivers there who can make plays. Defensively, they're very young and they're very incompetent. So Aaron Rodgers should be able to eat them apart. Aaron Jones should be able to eat them up. And Davante Adams should have another huge game. So because the Packers will be able to move the ball, score consistently, that doesn't put the pressure on the defense of the Packers to be able to win this game for them. This is exactly the game that the Packers want to play. They'll be able to pass the ball early and run the ball late with Aaron Jones. And I think the Packers win this game pretty easily. It's also in Lambeau Field. It's not even on the road to make things interesting. Now, do they cover, though? That's kind of the interesting part. The Packers have been pretty good at scoring a lot of points and covering big spreads this year, from what I've noticed and what I recall. Now, they didn't cover the spread versus the Vikings a couple of weeks ago. That was fairly big. I believe it was at least a touchdown, but that was a divisional game. Seeing as how this game is not a divisional game, seeing as how it is a AFC versus NFC team, two teams that are unfamiliar with each other, it means it's more likely to be a blowout. And because I expect the Packers to score well over 30, I think they should be able to cover the 13.5. I don't think it's like a best bet. I don't think it's a for sure thing. But if I were to bet either way, I'd rather take Aaron Rodgers to cover 2 touchdowns, especially that it's at 13.5 and not above 14 or at 14, because that's a key number. I'm willing to go with Aaron Rodgers over sweating it out with Jacksonville to be able to hit that backdoor cover. So I'm going to go with the Packers to win and to cover. Next game is the Philadelphia Eagles at the New York G-Men. The Giants are underdogs in this game after beating another NFC East team in the Washington Football Team. Philadelphia are the favorites after coming off of a bye week. They are seemingly getting healthier. Jalen Reagor had a game last week versus Dallas where he showed up, scored a touchdown in that game. He'll be in the lineup. Dallas Goedert will be in the lineup. I believe they're trying to eventually get Alshon Jeffrey on the field. Miles Sanders should be back this game. And defensively, they've been kind of solid all year. Not great, but not bad. The Giants, on the other hand, are a very feisty team. They keep things interesting. They keep things close. They have a competent defense that's kind of underrated, especially when it comes to their front seven. And their offense is up and down, mostly down. Daniel Jones turns the ball over a lot, but so does Carson Wentz, making for an interesting, either way, compelling game that I am willing to take the underdog in because of the inconsistencies of the Eagles. But this is the thing. Doug Peterson coming off of a bye is what sways me in this one. And that's why I will take the Eagles to win and I will take the cover here. Because I do think Peterson coming off a bye with the Eagles getting healthier on offense is absolutely crucial to their success down the stretch. This is a game that the Eagles absolutely must win to maintain the lead in this division, and I believe they will. Now, the last time they played, the Giants should have won that game. They ultimately coughed it up and did not, and Daniel Jones literally fell on his face. In this game, I think the Eagles, being that they are healthier, being that they have a week of rest and a week of preparation that Peterson can capitalize on and Carson Wentz can capitalize on, I believe that will be enough, as well as the Giants coming off a physical divisional game versus Washington, to win this one, and to win this one by at least 4 points. Now, it could be really good. The Giants could win it, but I'm going to take the team coming off a bye. The next game is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers can't be -3, so one of the guys there can't, or Ultra, they know my pain now. They can't be -3. I believe they're -8, if I'm not mistaken, but I will check that for you guys. I believe Pittsburgh is -8. Let me see. -7.5, maybe? I don't know. Let's just assume it's 8 points. All right, so Pittsburgh -8 here. The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to Pittsburgh. Joe Burrow, they're coming off of a bye, I do believe. Joe Mixon should be back in the lineup this week. I'm not exactly sure on the update there in terms of fantasy related. But even then, it's going to be tough to run versus Pittsburgh as it has been all year. Pittsburgh's coming off of a bad game versus the Cowboys. Although they did win the game, it was not impressive in the slightest. The Bengals have been getting better and better and better with Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow has been getting better and better and better. And honestly, it's tough to say that I can take anybody to cover 8 versus Cincinnati. I know that sounds weird, but Joe Burrow is a covering machine, and he's a really good quarterback, and they have some weapons to work with. I know the offensive line will get overwhelmed, and the Bengals, I thought about, other matchups that would happen. So this one's really tough in terms of the spread. Obviously, straight up, I'm taking the Steelers, and I don't really have any, issue with that at all. I don't think that it's going to be close in terms of competitive enough for me to think the Bengals will win the game. But in terms of 8 points, assuming that the spread is 8, I'm going to take, I think, the Bengals. This one might change. I am worried about the mismatch that is the Steelers pass rush versus the Bengals offensive line and the Steelers front versus the Bengals offensive line in general. But Joe Burrow has proven that he can overcome it. And the Steelers offense has proven that it's not very good. Like, it's at least average, and it has down games. And Cincinnati's defense is actually decent, especially versus the pass, which is where the Steelers are their most competent on offense. I won't say good, but they're their most competent with Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Eric Ebron. Their run game is not good in Pittsburgh. So it makes me feel like, okay, Cincinnati, typically a bad run defense. They don't really have to worry about that so much because that's not really where Pittsburgh exposes people. It's more in the passing game where the Bengals have been decent. So I think Cincinnati keeps this one competitive. I think they keep this one close. But I will take the Steelers to win by like 6 or 7 points. If the spread's slightly different because we got the graphic wrong here, then I might change my opinion. But I also may change my opinion just based on how the week looks, how the injury report looks. But the Bengals coming off a bye should be rested and should be ready to go to face the Steelers. And this is a big spot for Joe Burrow to prove what he has versus one of the best defenses in the NFL. So I like Joe Burrow most times, more often than not, to cover games. The next game is the Washington football team at the Detroit Lions. The Lions are favored by 4.5 points. I do believe Matthew Stafford will be playing in this game. So assuming that, I will take the Lions. But I'm going to take the Washington football team with 4.5 because I do not trust the Lions to beat anybody by 4.5 at this point. They have let me down consistently, and I'm willing to be wrong with the point spread. I do believe that they should win this game, definitely, but I wouldn't be shocked if they lost this game. Now, I don't think Kyle Allen is playing. I'm almost 100% sure that he will not be playing. I do believe it will be Alex Smith who's playing, so that's a bit concerning. But I don't think Kenny Golladay is playing for Detroit, who's proven that he is a difference maker. I don't think Trey Flowers is playing for Detroit, who is a difference maker. So Detroit is without a couple really good players here. And Washington does have a really good defense, like legitimately very, very good. Their front seven is excellent. They're well coached. They're physical. They're tough. They'll keep this game close. And I think the difference is basically the difference between the two quarterbacks at this point. Stafford's the better guy. He'll find a way to come through with a win here, but it will not be pretty from the perspective of the Lions. All right. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Carolina to face the Panthers. The Bucs, you saw the rant. The Bucs, they're frustrating. Let's just say I'm still not willing to go there with the roster because I think big reason they've lost the Saints now twice and why they lost so embarrassingly last week, you saw the rant. I think it's a lot to do with the coaching staff. So I think it's time that the coaching staff bunkers down, they get back to the lab, they get back to the drawing board, and they come up with new things on offense and on defense and add a little bit of a layer to both sides of the football because this team is far, far, far too talented to only be favored by 5.5 or 4.5 or whatever the spread is now versus Carolina. This realistically, if the Bucs were playing at what they should be playing at, which they should be the best team in the league, they should be. There is no reason they should not be. When you look at the roster, when you look at the potential of the team, when you look at the well-rounded nature of the roster and the team, and what these players have proven and what have they shown you this year at their peak, this team should be 10-point favorites over the Panthers, just like the Chiefs were, but they are not. And that's a problem. And that to me says that Vegas doesn't have the confidence in them as one of the top teams in the league because of what they've shown in some moments this year. Not covering versus the Giants, getting shellacked by the Saints, not showing up in certain moments. I think this is a bounce back spot though. And I have a rule in my textbook of my rules for NFL picking. And one of the rules suggests that you never, ever, and I mean ever, pick versus Tom Brady after a loss. So I will take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win. I will also, I know it's risky because Teddy Bridgewater covers, but I'm going to take the Bucs to cover. Based on the first game they played, the Bucs dominated that game. I think they were up by like 24 or 28 points at halftime. I don't think they let the foot off the gas pedal. I think the Buccaneers win this game, and they win this game handily because they need to. If they do not, it's not going to be good for them. I mean, they need a big performance this week. They do, after getting shellacked by the Saints. So because of that, I will take the Bucs and I will take them to cover. Look out in this game for Brady and the receivers to be back on track this week, specifically in the passing game. So that is my pick. Next, the Buffalo Bills at the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are favored by 2 points. I've seen this as low as a pick'em. I've seen this as high, I think, as 2 or maybe even a field goal for Arizona. Based on the spread, I will take the Buffalo Bills, my Buffalo Bills, weird saying that, to beat the Arizona Cardinals. Why am I going to take them to beat the Arizona Cardinals? Because I will take the offense that is more consistent at passing the football, and that is Buffalo. Okay, Arizona has key injuries in the secondary. Buffalo has some injuries on defense that are worrisome, but Arizona, they've been more inconsistent at passing the ball this year. Kyler has been a phenomenal scrambler. He's made plenty of plays with his arm. Don't get me wrong. But Buffalo has a top 3 passing attack in football. Josh Allen was back on track last week versus Seattle. They got a big win. Yes, they do travel to the West. Yes, that's a thing. But I think Buffalo's just the better team. I think they have the better coaching staff. I think they have the better defense, just by a little bit. And I think the quarterbacks are closer than people think. I think a lot of people think Kyler's far superior to Josh Allen. I don't think that's true. I'd actually take Allen right now, but that's just me. I like the Bills. I think they're just the better team. And it's really simple for me. Yes, the Cardinals could win. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe it's even a spot for them to win, you would say. But if I'm looking at both teams, I think the Bills are better. I think the Cardinals are a playoff team that's more of a pretender. I think the Bills are legitimately, as I said in a video, a dark horse to go far in the playoffs. So that being said, I'll take the Bills. I think, you got Tre'Davious White to cover DeAndre Hopkins. That's a key matchup that I think favors in terms of the Cardinals. It favors them slightly, but I do think that's better than what the Cardinals have to cover the receivers of Buffalo that are dynamic, that are multiple, that are versatile, with Beasley, Brown, and Diggs all offering something a bit different to the game. And then the Cardinals, their pass rush is lacking without Chandler Jones being there and being out for the season. I am concerned with the long-term health of the Bills' defense with Milano being out long-term. That is definitely concerning, but I don't think that's enough for me to really worry in this game. Now, I would expect Edmonds to be key to this game in terms of what McDermott does. Maybe Edmonds becomes the spy on Kyler Murray, or he's very crucial to what they'll do, but they weren't versus Patrick Mahomes. They need to be better in terms of their rush integrity up front, and that will get them to go a long way in this game on defense. But I do think that defense in Buffalo is getting a little bit better every week. So I'm going to take Buffalo to win this game. Obviously, I'll take the +2. Next, Denver at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Broncos are very strange because the last 2 weeks, they've come back from behind and made the games not only competitive, but they've also won a game in that stretch. And this is a rivalry AFC West game that on the surface should be really close, but the way that the Broncos are playing almost worries me that they are not going to be able to make this one competitive, because they've been getting blown out and then having to come back at the end of games. I don't know if you can do that every week. That's kind of scary to me. But when you look at both teams, I actually think the Broncos match up decent with the Raiders. I don't think it's a matchup where I say, ooh, one team's clearly better than the other. Yes, I'd take Derek Carr over Drew Lock. Yes, I think the Raiders have a better offensive line. But I don't know. The Broncos have pretty good weapons, even without Cortland Sutton. Patrick's come through. Jerry Jeudy's getting better. Noah Fant's pretty good. Kamler showed up in a few moments, and they can run the ball all right with Lindsey and Gordon on offense. I think what they need to be more pass happy early in games so that they don't get behind by so many points. But we'll see if that changes. Defensively, they're solid versus the run. They're very competent there. And the Raiders are all about that run game, as we know, to be able to set up that quick passing game and that play action shot to Ruggs occasionally or Aguilar down the field. But as we've seen, John Gruden has been able to be versatile in his game plan and in his approach to be able to throw the ball short, get it in the ball, get it in the hands of his playmakers, get the ball in his hands of his playmakers. And I think that's what he'll do versus the Broncos, more so than try to run it right up the strength of the Broncos defense. I think the Raiders win this game. This is one where it's really interesting in terms of the points. If it's 5 points, it's an AFC West game. As we saw last week, the Chargers nearly beat the Raiders, but the Chargers do have a better offense, and I'll say a better quarterback. But, I don't know, man. The Broncos should be able to make this one close. I'm just worried that they will be far behind early again, just like they were the last 2 weeks. So I'm stuck in this weird predicament. But I will take the Broncos with the points because it is a rivalry game. And I don't see the Raiders as some juggernaut. I think they're a good team. I think they're a playoff team. But I don't think they're the Chiefs or anything insurmountable for the Broncos. And they don't necessarily match up poorly with the Raiders. So I'll take the Broncos plus the 5. But I will expect and I will take the Raiders to win this game. Next, you have the LA Chargers at the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins have instantly just become the Dolphins again in 2020, as they've been one of the better teams in the last couple of weeks of the NFL. I mean, they've looked, and nobody has gained more in terms of their stock price and how it's rocketed up than the Dolphins. From their defensive performance versus the Rams to how Tua looked head-to-head versus Kyler Murray a week ago. So the Dolphins have looked really good and honestly really promising. And not just for this season, but just in general, to be honest with you. I just think they're a team that they're never out of any game. The coaching is superb. The quarterback play is good enough. It's nothing special, but Tua showed us last week that, okay, he can be the Fitzpatrick for them and maybe give them a little bit more in terms of the run game. So maybe I was wrong to say that they shouldn't have pulled Fitzpatrick. It was a risky move, okay, but so far it hasn't backfired. So far it's worked out. So that's good. They don't have Myles Gaskin again. So the run game, it's pretty much non-existent. Passing game is fine. But the defense is really what wins them these games. So they're going to have a tough test here. Justin Herbert is playing unreal. He's playing awesome. And the Keenan Allen, unguardable right now. Unguardable. Hunter Henry, solid player. Mike Williams making plays down the field. Austin Eckler's still out. Jackson, Kelly in the backfield. Their offense has been good. Really good. Defense, not so good. Surprisingly. I don't know if that has to do with the coaching, the scheme. I do think it has more to do with that than the talent, because the talent's certainly still there for the Chargers, even without Derwin James and a couple pieces. But the Chargers just find ways to lose. It's hard for me to pick the Chargers. I do have a feeling that the Chargers could win this game, but I don't want to pick them because I think the Dolphins have done too much recently that I just have to give my props and I have to have faith in what Brian Flores' team has brought to the field. And then you throw in the fact that Brian Flores is one of the better defensive coaches, could give Herbert a tougher time this week with those zero blitzes and with those different looks that they show a quarterback and who's coming, who's going. That's going to be something challenging that Herbert hasn't really seen yet. I think the Dolphins win the game, but I am not exactly solid on this and sold on this. So I'll take the Chargers to lose, even though I have a feeling they may win. I'll take the Dolphins because they've earned that. They've earned the right. The Chargers have done nothing to earn the right. They have earned no respect from me because they have constantly blown leads and constantly found new ways to lose. On the other hand, the Dolphins are finding ways to win. So that's why I'll take the Dolphins to win. And I'll take the Dolphins to cover because it's 2.5 under a field goal. But if you are doing a teaser here, always consider the Chargers because they are a great teaser team. All right. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers at the New Orleans Saints. Saints minus 10 points. 10 points. I never thought I would see that playing San Francisco, to be quite honest with you, because San Francisco was a great team last year and had one of the best rosters entering this season. But as we've seen, this roster has absolutely been wrecked by injuries. Nick Mullins getting the start again. I think Brandon Ayuk will be back. I don't think Deebo Samuel will be back. George Kittle is out for basically the season. And I think Raheem Mostert is also out again. Defensively, for the Niners, they did not look great versus Aaron Rodgers last week. It's a different offense that you have to handle in New Orleans. New Orleans is at home. They're coming off a big win on the road versus the Bucs on Sunday night. So maybe could there be some fatigue from that, like mentally, like we're the kings of the castle kind of thing, and like not taking this game seriously because they're playing Nick freaking Mullins. So there is something to do there when you're talking about the mental aspect, the emotional aspect of getting up for this game. I think the Saints should win this game and should cover. I'm not confident in the cover though. But because it's in New Orleans and because I trust Sean Payton as an offensive mind to be able to make plays versus this defense and to score like 30-ish, I just don't know if Nick Mullins and the Niners can score 20 plus. Maybe we're overrating the Saints now because of what they look like versus the Bucs, which was about as good as they could have possibly played and is about as good as they'll play all year. So I'm willing to take the Saints and say, okay, if they don't cover, if we get a more interesting game than I would have expected, I won't be surprised. But and I love Kyle and all that, but it becomes a certain point where you're just missing so many players that it almost becomes like irrelevant. Now, a matchup to watch, Fred Warner and Alvin Kamara. That might be the best linebacker running back matchup you'll see all year. And Warner covering Kamara out of the backfield will be awesome to watch. I am very intrigued to see how the Niners approach their defensive game plan versus Drew Brees this week. But man, I have to go with the Saints to win. Not only to win, but to cover. Just because I don't know if I trust Nick Mullins enough. I just don't. He could have a good game, and I wouldn't be shocked, and the Saints defense could come back down to earth, but they showed some good things last week versus the Bucs. Maybe they're turning a corner, so I'm willing to bet that they are, especially that it's at home. So I'll take the Saints to win. I'll take the Saints to cover. This game will be fairly entertaining, I do think, because it's two great coaches going at it. Next game is the Seattle Seahawks at the LA Rams. This is Sunday Night Football. I don't know who to pick. I'm going to be honest. I think the Rams are the better overall roster. I think they actually match up really well with Seattle. Jalen Ramsey on DK Metcalf, Aaron Donald messing up the interior line of the Seahawks, Sean McVay versus one of the worst defenses in football, Jared Goff being able to hit throws on the move versus a bad defense, I should say. So the Rams actually kind of have good favorable matchups, and they do have the better defense by a country mile, but they have the far worse quarterback, and they are not nearly as explosive as the Seahawks. So those are two things that I want to keep in mind, because Seattle has Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's coming off of a loss, and I don't like betting against Russell Wilson coming off a loss. So my betting, gambling brain, trends brain tells me to pick Seattle, but my football brain tells me to take the Rams. I really don't know who to pick. I am going to take Seattle, and the reason I'm going to take Seattle is because I just said Russell Wilson coming off a loss. Secondly, Seattle has a good run defense. And that run defense will be able to at least stalemate the Rams' run offense. And then you look at how the Rams pass the ball. A lot of it's play action that I think Seattle knows what to expect because they play them very often. A lot of the teams that get exposed by Sean McVay are the teams that don't play him a lot because they don't know really what to expect, or there's wrinkles here and there that you wouldn't know unless you're a rival. But Seattle can pick up on those things and defend them well enough, even though they don't have the guys in the back end. But you look at the Rams receivers, and there's no vertical threat. So I think the Rams very well will dictate this game. But Seattle's ability to, in a Chiefian way, to just, score points out of nowhere is kind of why I think they're going to win. Just the ability to get a big play is so far in the favor of Seattle that's why I think they'll win. So even though I think the Rams will actually play better, I think Seattle will win the game. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of my thinking. All right? The Rams are all horizontal passing. The Seahawks are very vertical passing. And with the scheme the Seahawks play, it's more difficult to attack them in terms of, I just don't think you're stressing their slower corners. You're not really putting pressure on them to make plays as much as some other teams would that have beat them. So I think Seattle will win the game by a field goal or something like that. So I'm going to take Seattle to win. I do think Seattle, something that's changed recently has been the pressure that they've been able to apply on quarterbacks. And that is something that Jared Goff really struggles with. So if they continue that, Jared Goff may have an interception or two that changes this game. So basically, at the end of the day, why I'm taking Seattle is because of Russell Wilson over Jared Goff and the receivers of Seattle over the playmakers of the Rams. At the bottom line, that is why. Tyler Lockett will have an absolutely huge game in this one. Oh, wait, that wasn't Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football is New England. I don't know why I got that wrong. I typically would know that the Patriots are on Sunday night. But let's do that again. Let's try that again. This is Sunday Night Football. All right. I remade it. I made up for it. I don't know why I thought it was Rams in Seattle. Weird. Anyways, New England hosts Baltimore. Key stat for you, even though this really doesn't matter one bit. New England is 5-0 versus Baltimore in New England over the past 20 years. But I'm not taking the damn Patriots. Are you crazy, bro? I thought this spread was going to be minus 20. I don't know. This is too much respect for the Patriots here. If the Ravens don't win this game, I don't even know what to say. You can't beat the Patriots when Bill Belichick didn't even want to field a roster this year. There's no way I'm picking the Patriots to win this game. The Patriots cannot stop the run. I will say, it's been better with nose tackle Carl Davis, and they added the big Mac kid out of the Titans. So they've gotten bigger. They've added some big guys to the front. Like, I know they're nothing special, but at least there's some size there. Hopefully Lawrence Guy is back. Hopefully Gilmore is back. They need them to try to win this game to have any hope in hell. But, like, the Patriots offense, I just have no idea how they're going to move the ball. Like, Cam Newton have to literally transform into Superman to move the ball. Like, they might have negative yards in this game. Now, this depends. If New England can run the ball and actually run it well, then maybe they can keep this game closer than people expect. But, like, I'm not willing to bet on that. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, what is Baltimore going to prepare for? Jacoby Myers? Like, yeah, okay, he had a great game. He's a cool kid. Bro, just put Humphrey on him and call it a day. Like, what you got, Damiere Byrd? I mean, like, who's cover? A defensive tackle could probably cover Izzo. So, like, I don't know. Like, how is New England gonna win? Now, if I'm the Patriots, what I'm doing is I'm play action on first down as much as possible, and then I'm just running on second and third the whole game. If the Patriots have to pass the ball in a pure passing situation at any point in this game, it is so in the favor of Baltimore. It's probably the most lopsided matchup in the history of this year in the NFL. The Baltimore pass defense versus the Patriots pass offense is literally the biggest mismatch I have seen since Nam. So, on the other side of the ball, I am intrigued to see how Belichick, the second time around, defends Lamar. Like, if the Patriots defense shows up in this game, then maybe the game will be fun. But, like, I don't know if they will. I just don't know if they can stop the run. And the Ravens' offense has been bad. Like, let's not get it twisted. Their offense has sucked. They sucked versus the Colts. They sucked. Lamar was not great. The passing attack is nothing special. If I'm the Patriots, I'm literally just putting every person on my defense in the front within 5 yards. Like, I don't care. Put Jonathan Jones on Marquise Brown and just put everyone else on your defense within 5 yards and just say, Lamar, you got Jonathan Jones on Marquise Brown. If you want to go to that, go ahead. This is the only chance we have to win. So we're just not going to let you do whatever you do running the ball. So that's what I do if I'm the Patriots defense. But, like, I just don't see how New England scores 10 points. So I'll take the Ravens. I'll also take the Ravens to cover the game. So, yeah, there you go. Next, Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Now, I've been, I guess you could say, down on the Vikings this year and down on the Vikings lately, and I've been wrong about that. I was wrong about them versus the Lions. I was wrong about them versus the Packers. But I'm going to be wrong again because I will take the Chicago Bears to win, and I will take the Chicago Bears, obviously, plus 2.5. Why? The Chicago Bears have utterly dominated the Minnesota Vikings since Matt Nagy became the coach and since Kirk Cousins became the Vikings quarterback. The Vikings have struggled to score at all. Never mind score well, score a lot. At all versus the Bears defense over the past 2 years. The Bears are a terrible matchup for the Vikings. But it's tough for me to pick the Bears because they cannot score at all. So this is it's like picking a terrible matchup and trends in history versus Nick Foles. I don't know what to do. But I think the Bears should win. They're a Monday night dog at home. That's never a bad way to bet. I'm going to take Chicago to win, and I will take the 2.5 points. Yes, Dalvin Cook's been incredible. He will not be on Monday. I'm sorry, he's not playing the Packers or the Lions. He's playing Khalil Mack. So that being said, I will take Chicago to win, but this game is going to be absolutely dreadful. There will be at least 18 punts in this game, and I will probably fall asleep in the first quarter. But I will take Chicago to win. All right, guys, those are the picks for week number 10 of the NFL season. If you enjoyed, don't forget to Gronk Spike that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's get to the comments. Make sure you do comment right now if you want to get your question in or comment in. Let me know right now. All right, let's take a look at these comments. Gronk Spike that like button, guys. Join that Discord link in the description. Join the Patreon link in the description. Singh says, Mitch, did you know that Cousins is 0-9 on Monday Night Football? I had a feeling it was bad, but I didn't know he was 0-9. But at least that helps my pick. Jay Lee says, all Bears games are boring. That's kind of true. Valdez says, Khalil Mack did save their defense, though. Yeah, he kind of did. I mean, he rejuvenated it. Opium says, which game is the stream of the week? Good question. Maybe the Rams game? Tricant says, Dalvin Cook gonna bust in fantasy this week. Goatriot says, Bears will win by a field goal like what fraudulent thing they always do. Caden says, I just got here. What did you predict for the Bengals? I picked the Steelers to win, but the Bengals to cover. Leo says, hey man, there's a huge reason the Bucs lost, and yes, coaching staff was terrible. The offensive line was so bad because 2 of their offensive linemen were injured. 2 or just 1? Thought it was just 1. Lane says, I thought Cousins won on Monday night last year. Did he? I don't remember, to be honest. Man, unknown. You're slacking, bro. Watch it on the replay, though. You guys can always watch it on the replay. How many interceptions for Rivers? I'm going to say 1. Leo says, good news. Is they're going to be back for Sunday's game against the Panthers. Oh, the offensive lineman, Marpet. Tampa says, I hope the Vikings make the playoffs and ruin the Saints season again. That would be hilarious. They already played during the regular season, so. Dusk says, so you say the Steelers' offense is bad, yet they're third-ranked scoring. What's up with that? Their defense puts them in good field positions to score. And they've played some really bad teams. Like, bad. Especially defenses. But, I mean, come on. You know, Dusk, when you watch the game, do you feel like the Steelers' offense is top 3? No. Unless you're just that biased. But, I mean, if you watch the league and you watch the offenses, do you really truly feel the Steelers' offense is elite? They've struggled a lot. They struggled versus the Cowboys. Okay? I mean, it's not very good. It's a fine offense. It's nothing special. Brian says, Mitch, can we get a rant on Nagy's play calling next week on the Bottom Line View stream? Possibly, but the game's not till Monday, so I want to start doing it on Mondays. So I don't know, maybe 2 weeks from now. I don't know, man. I don't really have a reason to rant about Nagy. I need a reason. Randomness says, let me give you a list of who the Bears have won. Lions, Giants, Panthers, Bucks, and Falcons. Other than the Bucks, the other opponents they've beaten aren't good. Yes, yeah, I agree. Are the Vikings good? No. Jay Lee says, better season, Cam Newton or Teddy Bridgewater? I think Cam's been better, even though, the stats may say Bridgewater. Cam had 2 bad games. I would say 1 bad game and 1 game that didn't even happen. And then the other games that he's played in, he's played pretty well. I mean, he played very well versus Seattle. He played good versus Miami. He played okay versus the Raiders. He didn't play versus the Chiefs. He played dreadfully versus the Broncos after COVID. He played really well versus the Bills. He played really well versus the Jets. So Bridgewater has just kind of been all year. He's had some good games, but I just, he has way more to work with on his offense. Robbie Anderson has been awesome. DJ Moore is good. Curtis Samuel is good. I mean, McCaffrey and Davis have been good. So, Bridgewater's been fine. He's had some decent games, but, I still think Cam's the better player. Answer that question. Pick the Rams game? Okay. I'll do the Rams game. Casey says, did you know you're wrong, bro? Go Vikes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not willing to admit it yet. Lan says, it might have been a Sunday night game. It was some type of primetime game. Thursday night, probably. Oh, about Kirk Cousins? He won a primetime game. I don't remember when it was, though. Bills Cardinals game? That might be a good stream, too. LG says, Mitch, thank you for answering my question. No problem. Tanner says, what are the starts and sits this week? That will be out hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. Not sure. But I don't know yet. I haven't made them up yet. Tampa says, Bucks should consider allowing AB to return the ball as a specialist, either him or Scotty, because Jaden Mickens isn't good. Maybe they will, but I think he's got to practice a little bit more in terms of the special team stuff. And he's got to get more into football shape in terms of protecting the ball and getting the ball in his hands and getting tackled. That's something that hasn't really happened for him for 2 years or a full year. Why don't you have your PayPal? Because, I don't know. You could just join Patreon, and it's kind of the same thing. Opium says, Mitch, we know who's going to stop DK. You love Ramsey, Opium. Love. Obsessed. I kind of like it on Monday because then I can release stuff on Tuesday from it and actually get traction on other videos that I do. So I think it actually helps the channel if I do it on Monday, but I don't know. It's just me. Leo says AB was the best receiver on Sunday. If the offensive line gave Tom enough time, it would have been much different. Okay. Deshaun says, fire Matt Patricia. Lane says, Mitch, who's your favorite quarterback coming out of the draft? Besides Lawrence and Fields, and who does the Patriots draft? I don't know yet because I haven't watched their tape, so I'm not going to give you my opinion until I do so because I don't want to give you an uneducated opinion. So when I do that, I'll give you my opinion. What else we got? Dusk says, do you think Big Ben will play? I'm assuming he's playing. Yeah. I haven't heard anything different. Fired or safe Anthony Lynn? I think his leash is getting shorter, that's for sure. Liam has Steelers 38-21. Did Liam turn into Katie? Or Katie turn into Liam? Jay Lee says, who do you think is the best quarterback with one championship? Breeze, A-Rod, or Wilson? Out of those three, from an all-time standpoint, I'd probably put Rodgers the highest on my list. Who should I start in the standard league? Curtis Samuel, Nelson Aguilar, or Kirk? Already with the fantasy questions, guys. Possibly Curtis Samuel. Christian McCaffrey appears like he's not going to play. So maybe. Kirk could have another big game, though, this week. So I'm not quite sure yet. That's kind of just what I popped in my head. Chiefs, Tampa Bay, Super Bowl? Maybe. Tampa's got to come to play in the playoffs, so. All right, guys. I think I'm done. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. It's Mitch. See you tomorrow, maybe the next day for Stardom and Situm. If you haven't already, go check out The Bottom Line. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at TheBottomLineView and, of course, on Twitter at Mitch Milani. Peace, guys.